Welcome back to In Depth with Academia, and thanks for joining me today. I'm Richard Price, CEO of Academia.edu, your ever-curious host digging up fascinating research from across the academic world. Today we're exploring something seriously interesting and honestly really personal: how artists who are colorblind actually approach painting and manage the kind of color work most of us take for granted. Our springboard for this discussion is the thought-provoking paper Colorblind Painting Experience Methodology by Josep Giribet, and as always, just a reminder, I'm presenting Giribet's work neutrally, not endorsing any claims or conclusions he makes. Now let's dive in, because this is a genuinely cool intersection of art, science and technology. So what core question is Giribet addressing here? Essentially, how can colorblind people, specifically visual artists, find reliable ways to manage color in their paintings when their own way of seeing doesn't line up with, well, what most people would call normal vision? That may sound pretty niche, but think about it for a second. Colorblindness, or daltonism, affects millions of people worldwide, probably more than you realize. For artists, this isn't just an inconvenience, it actually gets right to the heart of what they're trying to say on canvas. It raises all these wild questions like, are colorblind artists inventing colors that no one else sees? Are they actually painting the world as they perceive it, or are they trying to match something that everyone else tells them is reality? It's a real philosophical tangle if you think about it too long. And I sort of get sidetracked dreaming about how paint by numbers would look if it was reimagined for different types of vision. Maybe that's my next hobby after podcasting. Right, back to the paper. Giribet, who's actually colorblind himself, basically argues that traditional painting methods are stacked against colorblind artists. They've relied forever on things like color names, old school color wheels, even just intuition based on sight. Problem is, those tools weren't built for folks with limited color vision. That's a major challenge when, say, you're trying to paint a sunset or, I don't know, a bowl of fruit that's supposed to be super vibrant, and you literally can't see what everyone else is seeing. Giribet looks at how the field has tried to adapt, mentioning everything from the famous color wheels designed by Harris, Chevrolet, Eaton, all those big names, to the shifts in modern color theory. But ultimately, the core dilemma sticks around. How does a colorblind painter match the color they see in the real world to the right pigment on the palette? And can any tool really bridge that gap? Now the juicy bit, what is this paper's actual method? Giribet presents a relatively straightforward practical solution, using digital technology to mediate the whole process. Here's how it works, broken down. First, instead of relying on eye alone, the artist takes a digital photo of their subject. That photo is loaded into image software. Giribet used GIMP, but you could just as easily use Photoshop or whatever floats your boat. The next step is clever. The artist applies filters to the image to simplify the wild chaos of color information, using, for example, a median filter to even out color values and boosting saturation for clearer distinctions. So instead of dealing with a dizzying rainbow, the painter sees a much more manageable spread of colors, sort of like, reducing an orchestra down to just the core instruments. Then each simplified color from the image is matched to a particular pigment, and Giribet's trick is to use high-quality acrylic brands that provide precise numeric data for every color, down to things like Munsell notation and CIELAB values. It's almost like creating a custom color translation chart. If the photo says, this part's ultramarine blue, you can find very specifically which tube of paint to use to mimic that effect. The result? Instead of second-guessing or relying solely on uncertain vision, the artist has a set of neutral, quantifiable color equivalents to guide their painting. It turns the whole thing into a semi-scientific workflow, sort of a color GPS for artists who might otherwise feel lost in the world of hues. Super cool. But wait, how does this matter for, you, the listener? If you're an artist struggling with color blindness or maybe teaching aspiring artists with unique vision needs, this kind of method could really open doors. It's about empowerment, right? And even if you're not an artist, this underlines a much bigger lesson. Our perceptions shape our creative possibilities. but that doesn't mean we can't hack the process with tech, theory, and a bit of stubbornness. Giribet admits neutrally that the system isn't perfect, lighting conditions or digital inaccuracies can mess things up, and the whole thing's still got a personal, subjective edge to it. But as a colour perception prosthesis, this approach certainly gives people new ways to express themselves. Plus, he hints that this could even help with art education in general, not just for colourblind folks. Wow, that was a lot to chew on. Just a reminder, new academic insight doesn't mean absolute truth, but it does mean something worth thinking about for your own creative practice, or your next conversation about art and technology at a dinner party maybe. Thanks for hanging out with me on In Depth with Academia. It's Richard Price, staying curious, presenting research neutrally, and inviting you to dive in deeper with every episode. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the colours vivid, even if you can't always see them the same way as everyone else.